Hello, my name is Armand Beheshtian, and today we're going to talk about methyl isocyanate exposure in Bhopal, India. The purpose of this presentation is to provide context for the Bhopal disaster that occurred on December 3, 1984, demonstrate the ways the population of Bhopal was impacted, and understand the health consequences of being exposed to methyl isocyanate. The Bhopal disaster was the most catastrophic industrial accident in history, when about 45 tons of the dangerous gas methyl isocyanate escaped from the American firm Union Carbide Corporation plant in India. Tens of thousands of individuals and families fled Bhopal in panic as the gas drifted over densely populated neighborhoods, killing thousands immediately. Substandard operating and safety procedures at the understaffed plant had led to the catastrophe, according to later investigations. This is our table of contents, which will list figures we will go over, including the effects of the gas leak exposure, the impacts, the gas exposure location, the environmental and economic impacts, and then a summary, and then reference slide. Methyl isocyanate is the smallest and most toxic of all isocyanates. Isocyanates are a family of highly reactive, low molecular weight chemicals. They are widely used to manufacture flexible and rigid foams, fibers, coatings, and etc. So the health effects of MIC, immediate health effects in Bhopal included ulcers, respiratory issues, anorexia, abdominal pain, neurosis, impaired audio and visual memory, impaired reasoning ability, and a lot more. But the long-term health effects included decreased lung function, increased pregnancy loss, increased infant mortality, increased chromosomal abnormalities, and impaired associate learning. This pie graph displays individuals impacted during the gas leak. The number of children exposed to the gases were at least 200,000 and 3,000 were pregnant women. Unfortunately, while conducting research, there was very skewed data on accurate statistics for the death and injury toll. People awakened by these symptoms fled from the plant. Those who ran inhaled more than those in vehicles. Children and other residents of shorter stature inhaled higher concentrations, as methyl isocyanate gas is approximately twice as dense as air. Therefore, it tends to fall towards the ground in an open environment. Thousands of people had died by the following morning. The stillbirth rate increased by 300% and the neonatal mortality rate by around 200%. The individuals who did not die were exposed to cancers, blindness, loss of livelihood, and financial strain. The healthcare system immediately became overloaded. In the severely affected areas, nearly 70% were underqualified doctors. Medical staff was unprepared for the thousands of casualties. Doctors and hospitals were not aware of proper treatment methods for MIC gas inhalation. The images below show the areas the gas was affected and Union Carbide plant, which is the third largest chemical company and the 37th largest industrial corporation in the United States. It owns 700 chemical plants and other business operations in 37 countries. The gas that spewed out of the factory of Union Carbide spread over 40 square kilometers, and for nearly 200,000 people, a quarter of the city's population, Bhopal became a gas chamber. If it were not for the two lakes of Bhopal, which came in the way of the gas cloud and neutralized it, an even bigger tragedy could have taken place. In a matter of hours, the streets of Bhopal were littered with dead animals. As shown in this line graph, you can see the number of animals who had died within 4 hours after the disaster. In autopsy reports, dead animals showed swollen livers, bloated digestive tracts, congested heart and kidneys, and etc. Within a few days, trees in the vicinity became barren. Supplies, including food, became scarce with food safety concerns. Fishing was prohibited, causing further supply shortages. Despite safety precautions such as water-carrying helicopters continually overflying the plant, this led to a second mass evacuation from Bhopal. The Indian economy has grown enormously in the last 2 decades since the Bhopal disaster. The gross domestic product per capita increased from $1,000 in 1984 to $2,900 in 2004, and continues to grow at a rate of over 8% per year. Rapid industrial development has significantly contributed to economic growth, but significant environmental degradation costs and increased public health risks have been increased during this process. Relief measures commenced in 1985 when food was distributed for a short period and Madhya Pradesh Government's Finance Department allocated $11 million for victim relief in July 1985. The interim relief allowed more children to attend school, more money was spent on treatment and food, and housing was also improved. In summary, corporate greed has caused the Indian economy to grow at a tremendous rate, but at significant costs in environmental health and public safety as large and small companies throughout the subcontinent continue to pollute. Lack of transparency has caused many people to still question what occurred on December 3, 1984, as a lot of information on this event is still questioned. Rather than acknowledge their tragic mismanagement on the Bhopal factory, Union Carbide avoided criminal liability, and that is why political activists have put pressure on finding out the truth. Next, lack of safety. The Bhopal disaster was an incident that should have never happened. This gas leak impacted hundreds of thousands of lives, and still to this day, so it is important to focus on techniques for corporate responsibility and accident prevention. Prevention should include risk reduction in plant location and design and safety legislation. Lastly, struggle with health effects of methyl isocyanate. For those people who lived in Bhopal, their lives changed forever. It is important to realize how toxic chemicals plague our communities and how it affects climate change. Toxic chemicals such as methyl isocyanate have no antidote, and effects to the human body and mind is extremely damaging. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and this is the reference slide.